Welcome to the Dalen Show. What's going on, people? So good to see you. Welcome to the Dalen Show. If you're new, I'm your host, Dalen Flowers. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's free. It only takes a second to do, and it helps us continue having conversations like this moving forward. So happy you guys could join me today. It is so good to see you for episode number 23 of season 5 as we continue along this journey of our 5-year anniversary. It brings a good bit of joy as I got past episode 20 as you usually stop, and now we're continuing to move forward in the numbers of what we're doing. And so what better way to do it than bring on someone of this man's status here today? And I'm very grateful that he's given me some of his time to talk to him. So let's introduce our guest, Mr. Wayne Smith. Woohoo!
Well, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you for joining, Mr. Smith. Just really quickly, how are you doing? How's life treating you right now, sir?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. It's gotten a little cold over here in Arkansas, and so I was a little bit shocked this morning. But apart from that, all good.
Yes, sir. Well, look, Mr. Smith, really quickly, I always love for my guests to kind of just introduce themselves to people watching and listening. So if you don't mind, could you just briefly brag about yourself a little bit, honestly, just maybe what you do in your life now, where you're from, a little bit of your upbringing and what you have done to get you where you are today. Just who are you as a person?
Sure, certainly. Yeah. My name's Wayne Smith. I'm the general manager of Oaklawn Racing Casino Resort here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Been here for about 9.5 years. Got a family, my wife Audrey, and 2 sons, Riley and Dylan. Riley's 27 and Dylan is 16, junior in high school, trying to follow in your footsteps in the broadcasting world, and then ultimately to trying to decide what college he wants to go to. He's kind of narrowed it down to a Notre Dame in Missouri, it looks like so far. So we'll see where all this goes. But anyways, originally from Rhode Island, so you don't hear the Arkansas accent. That's for a reason. Grew up on the East Coast. Actually ultimately went to two universities. University of Rhode Island for a little bit of time, and then ultimately graduated from Northeastern University in Boston. I graduated with an accounting degree, and ultimately worked my way through the finance side of life, public accounting, hotels. Worked for Sheridan for a number of years, and then worked my way out to Vegas, got into the casino world, and I've been in the casino world since the early 90s, and now here in Arkansas, after moving around to many different cities, from Vegas to Detroit, to St. Louis, to New York, to Chicago, and then here. So been around the block, started in the finance world on the casino side, and then worked my way into the general manager role, or basically overseeing all operations of a casino resort aspect. And then coming to Arkansas here in Hot Springs, coming to Oaklawn, I've now added a thoroughbred racetrack. Mm-hmm. So we're one of the top thoroughbred racetracks in the country. We race in the beginning of December 12th this year through May 2nd, every weekend during that time frame. You'll recall, I don't know if you follow the Kentucky Derby at all, but 2 years ago, Mystic Dan was the winner of that, owned by 4 Arkansas groups. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, Mystic Dan actually started his career at Oaklawn during the winter program. So a lot of our horses go on to big heights after they leave Oaklawn, whether it's the Kentucky Derby or bigger races even after that. We've had a number of horses this weekend in the Breeders' Cup. So I've got a pretty diverse background, but most of it all is in hospitality in some fashion or form.
I'm gonna jump the gun around a lot with you. I'm gonna jump around a lot with you, but you say that ending statement, hospitality. I kind of just want to know when did that become an idea for you? At what age did that become okay, this is what I wanted to do in my life. This is where I wanted to go work in. Like, what age did that become an idea? And honestly, how? Like, why was that thought process something that you wanted to do with your life, Mr. Smith?
I will tell you, Dalen, I can't say that it was ever in the cards when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. I never saw it happening. I never saw it coming. Where I grew up in Rhode Island, we didn't hospitality just wasn't a thing. You know, I grew up in a town, small town on the ocean, and I ended up. My father was a fireman, retired as a firefighter, and then became a ferry captain, taking cars and people to a small island off the coast of Rhode Island called Block Island.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of followed in his footsteps, working on the ferries when I was a kid, and ultimately I went to a military high school in Virginia, called Fort Union Military Academy, and during that time met a lot of different people, obviously from around the world, different diverse backgrounds. But when I came back, I honestly thought I was going to be an electrical engineer. One of my uncles was, and so I figured that might be the best way to go. My mom was worked in a bank, and then ultimately was a manager of condominiums and things of that nature. So I'd really never had a business background around me. I had my family built houses, so it wasn't like I knew what I wanted to do when I was growing up, other than maybe be an electrical engineer essentially and build houses and that kind of thing. And then realized early on that wasn't what I wanted to do. Honestly, this is going to sound weird, but I took an accounting class. It was the only class that I got an A on, and so I said, you know what, accounting seems to be pretty easy. Maybe I'll try accounting. That's how it started. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Ended up going to Northeastern University. And what was cool about Northeastern is they have a co-op program. I don't know if you heard about the co-op program, but essentially you go to school for a semester or two, and then you work for a semester or two. But it's all part of the college program, part of the university. And so that got me exposed to a couple of accounting firms, doing some taxes, and then ended up thinking that I wanted to go into public accounting when I graduated. Got a job out of school, working for a public accounting firm, realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. And then a headhunter reached out to me, didn't know what a headhunter was at the time. This is early 90s now, and this is going way, way back. And then they said, hey, we have a position at Sheraton Hotels. It was an internal audit position. And they said that if you take this, internal audit travels all over the world to different hotels around the world that you can audit. And I was like, okay, you mean I can travel the world and I can audit hotels and do that for a job? And they were like, yep, this is what you do. And so for 3 years, I traveled all over the world. And that's how I got in hospitality, honestly. It was through that deal, going in as an internal auditor, and then learning the business, understanding the front of house, back of house, and then ultimately, ITT Sheraton at the time had bought the Desert Inn in Vegas and Caesar's Palace, and so they needed help as an intern. They needed an internal auditor to go help on the casino side of the Desert Inn, and that's how I got into casinos. They said, hey, we need somebody to go out there and help. And I said, I'm in. I'd love to go check it out. Didn't know what Vegas was at the time. Landed in Vegas, thought I'd died and gone to heaven. That was the place for me. And so I've been in casinos ever since.
I love that, because I think there are people that are my age in college and are so fixated on the perfect story, or having everything together, or even right before college, that are trying to figure out, how do I make sure this journey is perfect. And I love to hear that yours necessarily wasn't in the ranks of understanding what you wanted to do until a little bit later into your young adult life. So I love to hear that. You mentioned your parents and your father. I just want to ask you, just describe your parents and the impact they had on your life and what they meant to who you are today.
So my both of them worked hard. I mean, back then you didn't have a choice. We didn't grow up with a whole lot, but we didn't want for anything. Let's put it that way. And strict parents, but ultimately, in the end, what they taught me was work ethic. Get you where you want to be, and there was no excuses. And it was, quite honestly, I'm so glad I had that upbringing, because had I not, I don't know where I would have been and what I would have done, to be quite honest with you. I probably, there's a lot of different jobs that I could have gone into and a lot of different places I could have gone. But they didn't allow me to go that route. As much as I wanted to become at one time a state trooper, there were friends of ours that wanted me to go in the state troop, and they were like, that ain't gonna happen. And then I wanted to follow my father as a firefighter, and he said, nope, that's not gonna happen. You're gonna go to school. You're gonna go to college. And so I'm very, very thankful that they directed me in that way. But they worked hard. They worked very, very hard. It didn't matter day or night. They were working, and so that's what I saw as a role model, and that's what they did, and that's what they showed me. And then not having the wherewithal, but they figured it out by sending me to a military school. I know this sounds weird. I didn't go to military school because I needed it. I wasn't one of those disciplined, challenged folks. I had enough discipline at home. Military school wasn't a reason for me to go. Actually, I went because my parents thought that I needed to be challenged on the school front, and so I did it. And quite honestly, again, that was another decision that I really didn't want to make. I didn't want to do it, but they didn't force me to go, but they encouraged me greatly to go. And I'm so glad I did, because it really did set forth the ability for me to understand that school and focusing in on schoolwork and getting good grades, all of those things mattered. And it really helped me get to the college that I wanted to get to, and those types of things. And again, the biggest thing that I can tell anybody is, if you just work hard and you just figure out, and you what I always say, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I'll outwork anybody.
Yeah.
And that's always been what I've been able to do my whole life.
Yeah. I love that, because as my mom is watching this, at some point she'll laugh at what you said, because I say that all the time. It's that I don't know where I would be without my mom.
Yep.
And I thank God that she didn't allow me to go down some of the routes that I probably ended up wanting to. And so I love to hear you make that statement. And I also want to continue biting on the fact of family for you. You talk about your parents and your impact that they had on your life. What importance and what are some of the things that maybe they taught you to help make you the father that you are? And as well, what type of relationship did you think you were able to gain with your children because of the relationship that you had with your parents and the things that they installed in you?
I think what I'm doing now is probably similar to what they did. I work quite a bit. I would say that there's things let's put it this way: I don't miss anything that they were involved in, for sure. But they also know that I work a lot. I work, especially in my business. It's what we do in the hospitality business, in the casino business, you name it. It's routinely 6 days a week.
Yeah.
It's nights, weekends, it's holidays. You have to, but it's something you sign up for, right? It's not for everybody. I'll be perfectly honest with you. We hire many people that say, oh, I can easily work a holiday, Thanksgiving and Christmas and those types of things. So you may work Christmas in the morning, and you may have to have Christmas dinner at night, whereas normally you may have it in the morning or afternoon. So hopefully I'm teaching them that hard work pays off, meaning that it's meaningful, and you can't. One of the things I try to tell these guys, I always tell Dylan, and I tried to tell Riley when he was growing up too, was that it's be great, just be great.
I love that. I'm going to show you. I have a wristband that I just took off, but I wear it. It says "Be legendary."
Nice. I like that.
So I love that you say that as well. Again, I'm going to stay on family. Just what does it mean to be a husband? And what did some of the things that your father may have taught you to be a proper husband to your wife?
Well, it's always a work in progress. I will tell you, that's not. I mean, being a dad, being a husband is not is it's an everyday thing, right?
Mhm.
It's focusing on it every day. Quite honestly, Audrey and I got together late in life. We had separate relationships. Riley was from a previous father,
Mhm.
and Dylan is ours combined. But yeah, Audrey and I've been together 20 years. Before that, I'd been married before, so learned a lot of lessons on what not to do and how to do. But I will tell you, the one thing and the reason why Audrey and I are together is because we're two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Because she understands what it takes to get to where you want to be,
Yeah.
and where as a family we can be comfortable and we can do what we want to do when we want to do it and how we want to do it. But the only way we can do that is to work hard, and she does the exact same thing. So she spent a lot of time when Dylan was born. Actually, when we got married, and then when Dylan was born, she was a stay-at-home mom. She actually worked before I met her. She was a hard worker. And then when we met, we made the decision that we would that she would stay at home, and so she took care of the house. She took care of Riley, and ultimately the two of them when Dylan was born, and she ran the house. She ran everything, and I worked, and as you can imagine, she was understanding of what it took that I was not gonna be home on a weekend night, or that we weren't going to go to this event or I couldn't go, and she went with friends or what have you. But you have to have a spouse that is understanding of what we agreed to, right? If we want something, this is what it takes to get it, right? And so now that Dylan's gotten older and into high school, she's actually opened her own businesses. And so she runs a couple of gift boutiques that are hers, and she works harder than anybody. As a small business owner, as you can imagine, in today's world, it's not always easy.
Yeah.
And So I would say the husband that my dad was is somewhat what I'm trying to be, is just understanding, knowing that she has goals in life, and she has things that she wants to do, and just be and we do that together as a partnership.
Mhm. Um, I want to jump back to you kind of in high school, and
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what was your process in deciding at that time to go to Rhode Island University? And as well, maybe what were some of the other schools that you were considering going to, and what made that ultimate factor for you to kind of stay close to home and go to Rhode Island?
So you want to know interest? So I had gone to a high school in Virginia. My
Mhm.
parents stayed in Rhode Island, and so my high school at Fork Union was in Virginia. So that was a long ways away. I
Mhm.
didn't get home very much because we didn't have the money to go back and forth all the time. But when I graduated high school, when I was looking to graduate from high school, there was a few other schools. I forget what it was. I think I applied to UNC, University of North Carolina. I only thought about that place because Jordan was going there, so
Mhm.
I just always followed Michael Jordan for some reason. And I think there was a couple of other schools, but I did apply to University of Rhode Island because I thought I had been away for so long
Yeah.
during that time, during that high school years. So I've kind of lost track of the kids I grew up with and all that. So I wanted to go back home and just be a part of being back home. But I realized very early on, over the first couple of years going to University of Rhode Island, one, like I mentioned, electrical engineering wasn't exactly all that I wanted it to be, even though I thought I could do it. Just wasn't what I wanted to do. Plus, I don't necessarily know that I focused as much on college as I should have, being going back home and getting caught up with all the people that I had lost track of before.
Yeah.
So it was pretty. In the end, when you look back on it, it was pretty stupid for me to have done that. But anyways, I wouldn't be probably the person that I am today. So ended up straightening up on that front, and then going to Northeastern. So really, it was the only reason why I went to University of Rhode Island was just to go back home because I had been away for so long.
If you could go back in time and talk to college Wayne Smith, what would you tell that 18 to 22-year-old? Like, what advice? What maybe what would be a message you want to tell yourself if you were in college right now? If you were able to talk to college you.
Where do you come up with these questions, Dan? This is top notch. Well, I'll be honest with you. I would say, just keep doing what you're doing. There's probably a few silly, stupid things that I probably would tell you don't do, but we won't go into those today. Um, but in the end, when I look back on it, if I hadn't have put the effort and worked as hard as I did, and understood that there were times back then. Actually, I will tell you too. I was a DJ back then too.
Ah,
So I DJ'd quite a bit. There was a path at one time that I was going to go to producing school and just follow that route as opposed to going into the business route. So it was there was a time, and that's go back to the parents again. That's when mom had a few choice words when that was posted in the forefront of my brain that this was the direction I was going to go, and that didn't go over very well. And so, but no, I think back then, going back just to say, look, it'll all be fine. In the end, it all worked out great, or it will all work out great because it has. I mean, I honestly am thankful that I did a lot of the things that I did, and that I enjoyed. Quite honestly, the DJing piece was awesome. I had so much fun DJing. I had a radio show. I did DJed at nightclubs and did all that through the late '80s, and really enjoyed that quite a bit. But just realized that necessarily wasn't going to pay the bills and wasn't the direction that I thought maybe was the best choice. But all that to say is long-winded way to say going back, I would say, look, everything's going to be fine. You did the things that you did. It made you a better person. You realized from your mistakes, and you moved on. And now look at you.
Yeah. Okay, I have to ask this now because I wasn't gonna do it until later. But now, since you mentioned the DJ experience, I want to know what are some of your favorite music artists ever? Who is your favorite maybe bands, favorite songs ever? And now that you mentioned that, what were some of your go-to songs that you had to play when you were in a club? Like, what were some of the vibes like in the '80s for you when you were DJing?
All right. So I will tell you some of the stuff that I played back then was Little Brass Monkey,
Okay.
Beastie Boys. I would say a little MJ with a Pretty Young Thing and those types of things. Michael Jackson. My favorite artist. I am a connoisseur of music from the 70s to the 80s to the 60s to the 50s. My dad has a record collection from the 50s and 60s that would rival anybody's. He has probably 1,000 45s going back to the real, the Beatles and the Beach Boys and the Elvis Presleys and we're going way back. But I would say my favorite artist of all time is Prince.
Okay.
I love all of his obscure stuff.
Yeah.
His popular stuff is his popular stuff, right? But if you go back and you listen to his albums, that's one of my favorites. Some of my go-to albums is probably, if you look at album-wise, go back to Boston's Third Stage album. You can go back to Dire Straits, their album, Pink Floyd. Was one that I went to sleep with every night. I always tell Dylan that was the Wall or Money. Those were the albums that I would sneak in my when I was in military school. I would sneak when we went to bed. I would put the headphones on and I would listen to Pink Floyd, The Wall on cassette tape. Now, not on. You guys don't know anything about these cassette tapes, but anyways, that was always good stuff. And but yeah, all the way through. I listen to all the '90s, the 2000s. I'm not necessarily up on some of your today's rappers, but some of my favorite rappers. I love Jay-Z, Eminem. I listen to a lot of them all the time, and I mean, I grew up when rap first came up with the Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. I had all that stuff back then.
Yeah.
But
You are the second straight guest. I had Jay Harris from ESPN on last episode, and he said Prince was his favorite of all time too. So I think Prince went along well with a lot of people. Prince is my mother's favorite artist as well too. So I love
you got a great mother then.
I love the Prince shout outs.
Yeah.
I want to ask you what persuaded you to go to Boston and attend Northeastern University. What decision made that the factor for you to go to Northeastern?
So I thought that Rhode Island University of Rhode Island was kind of the it had kind of worn off its welcome,
Yeah.
and I felt that I had to do something different. And ironically, this is something that we can get into in a little bit, but relationships. And my mom knew somebody that had gone to Northeastern in accounting, or somewhere in the finance side or accounting side or something, some degree. I forget what it was, but and I don't remember who the individual was, to be honest with you. I remember sitting in front of him, and she had known somebody, and Northeastern came up, and that's where he had gone. And he said, "Hey, you should really think about this opportunity." And so I did it, and I applied, and they took me in, and then that was. And the rest is history, quite honestly. What was interesting about doing that is that I had a roommate named Todd Sylvanus, great guy. He's a wonderful guy. He lives in St. Louis now. But I had a roommate then, and he and another guy named Mario, who was the GA at the time, or the RA of the place that we lived. We ended up becoming really close friends, and they taught me the what it was like to be in the business world, or to work in a business environment, in an office environment, understand what all that means. Because I had no role models in that field. What is it like to work as part of a team and those types of things, and so that's. So Northeastern was a great stepping stone into me actually going into the business world. I'm glad I made the move, to be honest.
When you graduated from Northeastern, what was the thought or the mindset afterwards? Did you have jobs lined up? Were you trying to figure out what were you going to do? What was like the next step for you after you graduated college?
Yeah, very fortunate at Northeastern, as I mentioned earlier. The co-op program got me into different businesses. So I was able to do taxes for a season, where you go, that was part of your work, essentially work study, internship type deal. You were still getting paid. But then in my senior year, I was the spring, I think, of senior year. We ended up I interviewed with a bunch of the accounting firms, local accounting firms and national accounting firms. There was a big six back then in the accounting world. I think now it's the big four or something like that. Deloitte Touche and Arthur Andersen and all those types of businesses, accounting firms. But there were two smaller regional ones, Panelker, Foster, and BDO, and I had interviewed with both of them, and I got an offer from I forget if it was Deloitte or one of them, the big six, and then I got an offer from Panelker Foster, and they were a regional firm. And the thing that turned me on with the regional firm was they were offering me the ability to go and get into different industries. So from an audit perspective, I was able to audit manufacturing. I was able to audit hospitality. So I did country clubs, a hotel, and then I did movie theaters, and some other cool operations. And then if I had gone to Deloitte & Touche, I would have been stuck on mutual funds for a couple of years. So they gave me a real good opportunity. And so that's why I picked Panelker Foster. A little less money. I think it was a couple grand less. But I ended up going there. And because of that, when that headhunter called me from Sheridan a couple of years later, because I realized public accounting, when I got into public accounting, it was fun. The audit piece was fun, but I didn't see myself going down that path. I didn't really care about the CPA type deal because that wasn't my gig. Once I realized I was in it, I wasn't I wasn't enamored by it. Let's put it that way. And so I realized this wasn't the path I was going to take. And just ironically, I get a call from a headhunter, which I had never knew what a headhunter was. Um, and uh, and so they offered me this job at Sheridan, and it was because I had hospitality experience in the public accounting firm that they took me instead of some other candidates. So that's how I traveled the world. And quite honestly, I'm a guy from Rhode Island, man. I didn't know what the rest of the world was. I was lucky if I got off the East Coast. Actually, I never went off the East Coast, to be honest with you, up until that time. And then I was traveling to England and Sweden and Cairo and Thailand and Australia, and I went everywhere around the world for 3 years. And it was Buenos Aires and Lima, Peru, and all these hotels and stuff. So it was pretty overwhelming, man. It was unbelievable, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, but I was very, 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 very fortunate to be able to get into the position that I was able to do, and then land myself in Vegas. So.
I see that Cowboys Avenue sign behind
Come
you.
on, let's go, Cowboys.
Just talk about. I know. I don't. That's why I was kind of butchering about talking about it, but I had to. Just
Come on, bring it. It's all right.
what are some of your sports teams, and as well, what does that Cowboys logo mean to you?
The cowboy logo today means pain and suffering. Is
Yep.
what it means. I've had 30 years of pain and suffering. The 90s were some of the best years of my life, being a Cowboy fan. I love, one of my favorite Cowboys is Tony Romo.
Mm-hmm.
I loved watching him play, but we could never get a team around him or a defense. It's kind of like what Dak's getting today.
Yeah.
So it's been very painful. I'm so sorry to Dylan that I made him a Cowboy fan. I didn't get to Riley early enough. He's a Patriot fan, New England Patriot, which is not bad. I mean, I followed the Patriots just because I love Tom Brady and my dad. But I'm a Yankee fan. Again, some more pain. Yeah, I grew up in Rhode Island. I should have been a Red Sox fan, but my dad grew up in New York City, and so he was a Yankee fan, and so he made me a Yankee fan. So yeah, it was cool.
What were, because I wasn't able to experience that. What were some of those '90s moments like for you as a Cowboys fan, winning those Super Bowls and watching Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and all those guys, Michael Irvin? What were those times like for you, man?
It was unbelievable, and quite honestly, getting to that point was it's a little bit of a story. So I was a Cowboy fan growing up, and the only reason why I was a Cowboy fan was because that was the team that was on TV all the time back in the '70s. So you don't know anything about the '70s back then. That's when we had that's when I was the remote control. If the channel needed to be turned, you had to get up and turn it. You didn't have a remote control to do that. But the only games that were on were the Steelers and the Cowboys mostly back then. And so I became a Cowboy fan because you could watch them on TV. That's when the Staubach days and Drew Pearsons and Tony Dorsett's. And then when we got into when the '80s were happening, horrible. And then the Jimmy Johnson got the team, and it was very difficult to see Tom Landry go. However, interestingly enough, I was very, very excited about Jimmy Johnson because I followed him at Miami because there was a guy that played back in Miami called Vinny Testaverde. You remember that name?
I do.
So when I was in Fork Union Military Academy back in the early '90s, back in the early '80s, Testaverde was a postgraduate at Fork Union, and so the postgraduates, when they left us, they came in for 1 year. They had already graduated high school. They came in for one more year to get their skill sets up, and then ultimately get better offers. And he ended up going to Miami, starring at Miami. So we all at Fort Union followed Vinny and other players that were like that. And so that's how I got to know that Jimmy Johnson was. That's how I got to follow Jimmy Johnson. And so I was very excited for Jimmy Johnson, but then he had 2 horrible years. And then all of a sudden he did the miraculous Herschel Walker trade, and then that. So that the '90s were great to be a Cowboy fan for a good 5 years there, 6 years. Things were just wonderful. You knew you had a chance,
Yeah.
right? And then Jimmy and Jerry, and I still haven't let Jerry off the hook on that one. Should have never let Jimmy, because we would have been the Patriots of the '90s,
Yeah.
had that not happened.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a long story, but it kind of but the '90s were great, and then the Yankees in the late '90s took the mantle once the Cowboys started sliding backwards, and the Yankees were just on fire for a good 7 years, 8 years. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, so the Yankees won again in 2009. The last time that they won a championship.
Yeah.
Actually, Dylan was born that year in 2009. But the coolest was it 2000. It was 2009, but it was in October, so it was the World Series. So I was able to take my dad to the World Series game, which was really really cool. I had some great partnerships with Yes Network, and so I was able to take him to the game.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was that was fun to be able to take him to something like that.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's fun.
Um, could you talk about your jump start into the casino world? I know you talked about Vegas and New York and Detroit, but just talk about the start of that for you, and essentially how did all that end up for you being in Hot Springs, Arkansas?
So let's see, Vegas. I go to Vegas, internal audit side of life, and the thing about internal audit is that you get to learn the business from the inside out. So you get all the way from the bottom. You learn everything about, from the finance side to the HR side to the casino side, all the regulations that are around the casino, and even in the hotel side. So I was able to learn quite a bit about the business, and just moved my way up into. I met a friend of mine that ended up being getting into the operations and into the accounting department, the casino accounting department. Took me in as his assistant casino controller at MGM Grand in Vegas, the big green building, and from there just worked my way up into a director position. Again, just going back to what we talked about, and learning from my parents was hard work. Was, if you didn't know it, you learned it. And as I told you earlier, again, not the smartest guy in the room, never have been, never will be, but I'll always outwork anybody in the room. And so I made sure that, again, just worked hard, I learned, I was, by day, I was in the accounting department, but at night and on weekends, I would go up on the casino floor, and I was lucky enough to have people that would show me the business, teach me table games, teach me slots, teach me how to deal with players, and understand what players, why they play what they play, how they play what they play. Quite honestly, I learned how to be around celebrities, the likes of Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, all those people that were out there back then. Got to see Prince a couple of times play there, and just how to treat them, how to look at them differently, how to not bother them, how to be around celebrities and things, taught me quite a bit back in those MGM days, and just was able to move up because I showed that not only am I focused on my area, i.e. the accounting side, but was able to learn the operations, and ultimately that got me to Detroit. I had the MGM asked me to go and open up the MGM Detroit, and then I got married to Audrey after I'd been there for a while, and then that's when we moved together to St. Louis for a couple of years, and then had an opportunity in New York to go. That was closer to being back home. She was from Connecticut, I was from Rhode Island, so being in New York was just doing that, was just going back, and that gave me the opportunity to ultimately become a GM and to oversee the whole operation, not just the accounting compliance side of life. So, and then I moved over to Chicago for a couple of years, and then got asked to come down here to Oaklawn.
This may be a broad question, but could you possibly I guess firstly, describe what you actually do, because I know when people hear the term general manager of Oaklawn Casino and Racing, they think you probably do a lot of things. But could you like specifically, and obviously I know you can't talk about everything, but like specifically in ways, talk about what it is you actually do, and maybe as well in a way, could you like give a day-to-day breakdown for people watching and listening to understand like what time you get up, what time you may get home on a particular day, if say if there's an event going on, like what does your day look like as well?
Okay, let's see. So what do I do? I guess what you could say is, if I can use maybe a sports analogy, I'm kind of the head coach, and then I have coaches for each department. So what we have so we break it down. We break the organization down into departments: marketing, finance, human resources,
Mhm.
hospitality, facilities, meaning those folks that build that work on all the all the things that go on around the property. A door gets busted, or window breaks, or um, uh, AC, your AC units, all of those types of things are part of the facilities team. And then we have a racing side as well. So each one of those departments has a vice president.
Mhm.
And so I'm in charge of I'm in charge of all of those departments. They all report to me. So everything goes through me. But the thing about it is it's no different than in a sports world.
Yeah.
A head coach has to rely on and make sure that he hires the best people for those positions,
Yeah.
so that he doesn't have to be the one that has to run each one of those areas. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Definitely.
So within each one of those areas, then they have levels of people and areas within their departments of who they have to oversee. And so basically, it's just from a top down. And then my role, quite honestly, daily is to just keep up with making sure that myself and the other seven VPs that we have here set the tone, set the standards, set the expectations, and then every day following up. A term that I use consistently and have for years. I learned it from a previous mentor. It's called inspect what you expect. So if you're setting the standards and you ask people to make sure that the bathroom's cleaned, for instance, you have to go and inspect it periodically to make sure that it's clean to the standards that you ask them to clean it. So that's why you say inspect what you expect. And so I have to follow that rule, and then we try to implement that and make sure that everybody follows that same rule. And we have a lot of people here. We have 950 people that work here year round, and so it's a fairly big job. But my role is truly just one that just is more helping people be successful and trying to do everything we can to have people understand that Wayne Smith did not start out as a general manager. I mentioned it earlier, right? I started out working on ferry boats and built. Actually, when I was 9 years old, I was helping my family, my uncles and my grandfather build houses. So, I didn't come into this GM role right out of college. It
Yeah.
took many years of working in different areas. And to your point earlier, a lot of kids to these days don't know what they want to do, where they want to be. It looks like you're very fortunate. It looks like you've kind of knew what you wanted to do, and you worked very hard to get here. Dylan, for instance, he knew it when he was 8 years old that he wanted to be on ESPN.
Yeah.
You know, um, I wasn't that guy. I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do
Yeah.
back then, and so I try to do that on a daily basis, just trying to make sure that everybody understands that hey, if you work hard, you can be sitting in my chair, and I'm hopeful that someday when I leave, we're giving it to somebody who worked their way up through the ranks at Oaklawn, and will ultimately take the chair.
Yeah.
So that's always the goal. You always want to try to promote from within, but anyways, that's my role, and so I was always in the finance side before I got into the operations side, which was ultimately the GM role. But and I was CFO for a number of years at different properties. But this was always kind of the goal. The goal was to try to become a GM. And I will tell you, I didn't learn that until I was at MGM in Vegas. I didn't know that was even a path for me
Yeah.
to go that route. I was lucky enough to have a couple of mentors that really got me to that level. In fact, the guy that hired me at MGM, a guy named David Chan, we're still best of friends now. He actually comes and does some work for us here as a consultant. He'll actually be here next week. He hired me at MGM to be his assistant controller, and he actually helped me understand the path from where he hired me to being a CFO of a property, because I asked him what's it going to take to get to that level, and I was very, very fortunate to have him help guide me through that process. And then when I got there, there was a GM named Scott Snow that ultimately I used, and he helped me create a path to becoming a general manager. And so I will tell people, if you can find the right people and you can get the right mentors to get you to a particular level, and you work hard and do what you need to do to make it happen. Again, it doesn't happen overnight. They're not going to hand it to you, but in the end, that's how I was able to get where I am. And that, as I mentioned, that role that I take is just now more of a coach than it is anything else.
Yes, sir. Mr. Smith, and I'm not trying to age you by how when I ask this question,
Yeah,
but how old are you?
59.
Okay, I asked that because I love asking my guests if there is an end goal. And when I say that, I mean, is Oaklawn your last stop? Is there something else greater that you want to do? Or like, what is the end goal for you and your career and what you end up wanting to do, if there's any at all?
I will tell you, the end goal is to be able to retire and enjoy retirement. That's the end goal, right? I want to be able to. I don't want to be one of those guys that retires and 2 years later they're gone. That kind of
Yeah.
thing. I want to be able to enjoy it. So that's the end goal. I will tell you that Oaklawn is a place that I could see myself retiring
Hmm.
from. Let's put it that way. However, I will tell you, and I'll tell, like it was with me, I'll tell you, you just never know what comes down the pike.
Yeah.
Life, life will take you in mysterious ways. Just don't, just don't shut it out.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, I never would have thought that I'd be at Oakland.
Yeah.
Never in a million years. It's not something I said I'm going to one day be in Arkansas. Hell, I didn't even know. I didn't know what Arkansas had. Quite honestly, the only two things I ever knew that came out of Arkansas was the University of Arkansas and Bill Clinton. Those
Hmm.
are the only two things I ever heard of Arkansas. Never even thought of it being a state that I would live in. Never knew anything about living in Arkansas, and never knew what I would find here in Hot Springs. Never know this existed. So just never shut anything out. Never shut any request to talk about things ever.
Yeah.
You just never know where you're going to be, and you never know what's going to happen. But in today's world, as I've gotten older, and well, we're definitely here for another 2 years till Dylan gets out of high school. But apart from that, we could very much see ourselves retiring in Hot Springs, or certainly retire from working. And then whether Hot Springs is where I stay forever, I'm not sure. Whether it's Florida, where there's no taxes and that kind of stuff, maybe that might happen too. But you just never know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but seriously though, I don't want. And you're young enough now that you'll start to get requests, you'll start to get offers, things will happen to you. You're really starting to really put your profile out there in a big way. Not only this podcast, but in other ways. But just know that you just never discount an offer, and never discount an area that you may want to move to. Did I want to move to Detroit? No. Quite honestly, I've been in Vegas. It's 110 degrees there. I loved 110 degrees, I'll be honest. Did I want to go to 110 below zero in Detroit or Chicago? No, but it was a means to an end, right? It ultimately got me exposure to other things, into other positions, like a CFO position, that I probably never would have, never. I wouldn't have had it in the time frame in which I did have it, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
each move has been there's been a method and a reason why I moved, and I would highly recommend people just never shut anything out, any request out.
Yes, sir. I love that. And before I get you out of here, there's like three
Yeah,
things last that I want to ask you.
come on.
And in this part is called Fruits of Labor. I've been doing it since I started the show 5 years ago. But there's two questions in one. But I'm gonna ask you the first part first, and I want you to answer that. But what advice would you want to give people watching and listening? And when I say that, it doesn't have to be about your work or your career. It can just be what's a message that you would want to tell people to have in their minds, have in their heart to move forward in their life and their day and their week. What is something that you would want to tell people to just engage in life and always remember?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that I've always done it myself. Quite honestly, I don't know that I think do what you feel happy in doing. Find something that you're going to feel joyful in doing, because the last thing you want to do is come to work dreading it.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, um, and I can't tell you how many people. And this is just, I love what I do, or else I wouldn't work as hard as I do, and I wouldn't work as much as I do. But I also know that if I don't work hard enough, if I rest on my laurels, I wouldn't be long in my position. Somebody's going to take it very, very quickly. So I just don't want that to happen. But I will tell you, if you're not happy, don't do it. Find something that will make you happy, and if you do, it won't feel like work. And you, because if you're not happy, you're gonna dread it. Your family's gonna feel it. Your coworkers are gonna feel it, and more importantly, you're going to feel it. And if you can, and again, that doesn't, again, you had mentioned it doesn't have to be in this job or one job, or whatever job makes you happy, just do it and understand that is what your choice is. Because everybody makes choices in life. Some make better choices than others. But in the end, um, uh, and being happy could be working at McDonald's. Being happy could be cleaning floors, at Bucky's. Cleaning. It could be, uh, working at Walmart. It doesn't matter. Whatever makes you happy, just do it. Because we just we don't want you to be unhappy when you work in someplace else.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The second part of this fruits of labor is I'm really big on legacy. And when I say that, just doing things that I want to be remembered for in a positive manner, doing things in the light and wisdom and journey that I want to be doing it in and how I want to do it. So when I ask that, I say, what is your legacy and what do you want your legacy to be? So when people hear the name Wayne Smith, what do you want people to always remember about who you were as a person?
Uh, that it was honest, and hardworking, and did things the right way. Built relationships, didn't burn any bridges, and ultimately did everything he could to help others below him get to the next level.
hmm I love that. I really do. Short and simple, but it's very effective. I love that, Mr. Smith. Thank you so much. Last thing before I get you out of here. Dinner with three people, dead or alive. Who would they be and why?
Oh, sweet mother. Uh,
I knew I was going to get you with that one.
yeah, that's horrific.
And if you want grace, I'll give you five if that helps out, or if that makes it worse, just do three.
All right. How about you as number one? No, I'm just the here's the deal. Let's see. Well, certainly Prince would have been one of them. I would love to have had dinner with Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
And let's see, who else would I? It's off the top of my. Jack Welsh.
Okay.
Jack Welsh
I
with
like that.
yeah, yeah. He was he's intriguing. I would have loved to have. Because I don't think I manage as well as I should on a day to day basis, and I wish that I could have somebody with his what he was able to do. Um, and I don't have a creative bone in my body, to be honest with you. But Walt Disney would have been a cool one to have dinner with, because ultimately you're one, he was creative, but what he was able to build all those many moons ago with Disney. would have been something special.
Yes, sir. I love that. That's a fun dinner table right there.
Yeah, and then maybe a few little fun things would have been Madonna, would have been a good one, and maybe a little Jennifer Lopez. How's that?
I love that. I love that. That's like my favorite question actually because I never want to get to everyone and I make them think really hard, but as well
Yeah.
I get to get a little bit of dynamic about the things that you guys love. So I love that. Mr. Smith, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. I enjoyed the heck out of this conversation, and I'm so grateful we were finally able to get this done and
Yeah.
have you on the show. So grateful for you, and so thankful for your time today, man.
Absolutely. Hey, Dalen, best of luck to you. And again, thanks for all that you do for my son. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys, and anytime. If you're new, like I said at the beginning, please hit that subscribe button. It's free and it allows us to keep growing the Daily Show and allows us to keep having conversations like this. Leave a like, comment something funny in the description so I can laugh. And I really, really do hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you learned something. I hope you laughed. I hope you gained a little insight from Mr. Smith. And we really do appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much, everyone. Love.